Hey, it's me, OGDuffy, the original gamer, back with another Versus video. Now, another interesting title, this one. One that I didn't really know a lot about. Like most titles, I was aware of it, but I've never played it. So, an interesting one for comparisons this week. We are looking at Xenophobe. Now, excuse me, and a big, massive apology if I pronounced that wrong.
Xenophobe.
But Xenophobe. Obviously, this game is taking title reference from aliens. Alright, so what is Xenophobe? What's it all about? Well, it was released in 1987 on the coin ops in the arcades, and it was by Bally Midway. These guys obviously done some great titles, Smash TV, your Robotrons and all that sort of stuff, and this could have up to 3 players. And quite different, this one. You didn't share a screen. You sort of had your own little areas on the screen, which was quite different and bizarre. But we'll come to it very shortly and look at that. So the versions we're looking at this week, we're going to look at the 8-bit systems first, or as they've become to be known, the usual suspects, which of course are the ZX Spectrum, the Commodore 64, and the old faithful, the Amstrad CPC. So we're going to look at the 8-bits and see which one comes out on top in relation to the coin op. And then we are going to look at the 16-bit versions of this, the Atari ST and the Commodore Amiga, and we'll see which 16-bit version comes out on top. But before we look at any of them, as always, when it's a coin op conversion, we'll take a look at the coin op classic first. So this is it. Stick around to the end for my verdict. So, firstly, the arcade version, Xenophobe, 1987. Here we go.
Xenophobe, released on the arcade by Bally Midway in 1987. You can have a total of 3 players on this one. So as you can see, the play area there that I'm showing on this is 1-player mode, and obviously if someone come along and put their money in, they'd be above you and then again below you for the 3rd player. Could choose one of various characters, and it was a general sort of shoot 'em up, making your way through. Very colourful, very bright graphics, and quite cutesy, shall we say. So there's an alien infestation on this ship, and you have to go through and of course eliminate all the aliens. The aliens would be in forms of eggs which would hatch. From these, you'd create little alien critters that come out and would attach themselves to you, thus draining your health. I think we've seen that before in a certain film. If the critters were not killed, they would then develop into rollers, like you see there, and them guys were a lot tougher. They got like hard shell and stuff. There was various power-ups available throughout the game. You could get like grenades and stuff, and you negotiate the various floors via lifts and holes and things, and all in all, very similar in vein to the Aliens film, and Alien of course took quite a bit from that, but it was a bright, colourful, bold, it weren't too bad a shoot 'em actually. And then that took us to this is the Amstrad CPC version. Now, the first thing here with the Amstrad version, graphics very bold and nicely done, I thought. Make good use of the colour palette from the Amstrad, which we're starting to see in a few of these Versus videos, to be honest. I think the Amstrad was so quite often say was a system that sort of did pass me by. Wasn't too bad really. The music is not bad either, as you can hear. The gameplay was a little sluggish compared to the other systems overall, but in a nutshell, I can't complain about this version. It was graphically nice, it was colourful, the sound was half decent. Didn't play as fast as the arcade or look as good as the arcade, but hey, which home computer system did back then? They just didn't, did they? Let's be honest, because the technology in the arcade machines was far greater than we had at home for the time. But all in all, this was not a bad effort at all, and I have to admit I'm becoming quite a fan of the Amstrad in these Versus videos. I do like the colour palette on the Amstrad, and they did a good job on this version, I think. So all in all, not a bad effort from Amstrad in the outing of the first of the 8-bit systems. and that was the Amstrad. And now we're going to go take a look at the Commodore 64 version. Graphically, I don't think this was as bright as the Amstrad, but we're noticing that in a few of the Versus videos now anyway. But it seemed to play a lot more smoother, as you can see there. I think the gameplay was a lot smoother. It scrolled nicely. It was the sprites in that moved very well. If anything, a slightly faster gameplay than the Amstrad. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, as always. Had a nice soundtrack with this as well, and also a bit of sampled speech on some of the gameplay from this as well. So again, as we've come to expect in all of these Versus videos, generally with the Commodore 64, the SID chip, the sound chip of the C64, does come into its own and does seem to make quite a difference. But gameplay wise as well with this one, seems to play a little bit faster than the Amstrad. So we've looked at two of the 8-bit systems, and then we're going to conclude on the 8-bits with a look at the Sinclair ZX Spectrum, and then after that we'll be taking a look at the two 16-bits, the Commodore Amiga and the Atari ST, see how they all compare. Again, I'll be judging the 8-bits separately to the 16-bits as per normal. This is the Sinclair ZX Spectrum version. Now, graphically, quite similar to the Amstrad, but obviously without the bold colours, and obviously the Spectrum monochrome look. Now, I have to confess, this Spectrum monochrome graphics thing they did in the majority of the games, I do like, right? I'll throw it out there now, I'll fess up, I do like it, and whether that's just because it's a sentimental thing or what, I don't really know. It's because I have such great memories of the Spectrum, I think. So, you know, I was quite a fan of these graphics. I know, like, back in the day, the C64 owners and that would mock us and say, oh, look, you can't even do colour, and look at the colour clash and all that. But there was a certain cuteness to the graphics of the Specky, I felt. But hey, let me know in the comments do you agree or disagree with my little comment about the Spectrum graphics. The music as well, this was quite good for the Spectrum, very similar to the Amstrad version in terms of the music, and all in all, very playable. Nice little effort this on the Spectrum. Obviously not as bright and colourful as the other two versions, but I didn't think it was a bad job. Did you have this? Did you play this? Did you own it on any of the systems we've looked at thus far? If so, let me have your thoughts in the comments as always. And now we move into the 16-bit territory, and first off looking at the Commodore Amiga version. Very similar to the ST, which we'll look at after this. The main difference though is I felt that the soundtrack on the Amiga version was slightly better. You'll hear the Atari ST shortly, and if you look at where it says Xenophobe, the graphic on that is a lot sharper, very different here compared to the Atari ST, which does help to make a bit of a comparison when we look at the Atari ST shortly. Again, these versions, as you would expect being 16-bit, are as near to the arcade as we would get, and if I'd have owned either of these versions back in the day and I was a fan of Xenophobe on the arcade, I wouldn't have been disappointed with his conversions. I thought he converted very well. It was nice, bright, graphically good, and the sound was good on both of these versions as well. Like I say, we're going to come to the Atari ST next, but keep a note on the Xenophobe logo at the top, compare it to the ST, which is coming up now. So, as I pointed out there, the Xenophobe logo across the top, as you can see, a big difference between the ST and the Amiga on that. I think the Amiga just looks a lot sharper with this. As well, I think the Amiga version, the sound was better. Graphically and gameplay wise, you know, this played quite nicely. It was cutesy, the graphics were cutesy. Here we've got the duck build, humanoid, alien-esque character taking on the aliens. And one big difference as well with the ST to the Amiga was the sound, in respect of you could choose on the ST version. Did you go for sound effects or did you go for music? You could choose. You couldn't have both though. So that concludes pretty much the verses for this week. The different versions of the Xenophobe, which was originally released by Bally Midway, and of course brought out to these various home systems. So as always folks, let me know in the comments, which ones did you own, which ones did you play, did you ever play this on the arcade? Personally, it's a game that passed me by back in the day, so it was interesting to take a look at it now. Very cutesy to look at, very attractive, so I would have pulled you in on that front, but I found the gameplay a bit repetitive myself. Let me have your thoughts, as always people.
So that concludes our look at Xenophobe. Interesting game title. Personally, don't think it's the greatest game in the world for holding your attention. It's one of them games, if you've played it a few times, the novelty wears off, if you know what I mean. It's not one of them, oh, I must go and play that again sort of thing, you know. But it was good fun while it lasted, but then you're sort of ready to move on. So, let's see where these come in the versus videos. So, first off, 8-bit home computer systems. In third position, I gave it to the ZX Spectrum. Now, it looked nice on the Spectrum with them cutesy Spectrum graphics and that, but I'm very nostalgic about the Specky, but I was fair about it as well. The soundtrack was good on it, you know, so good sound for the Specky on this, and the cutesy graphics were just that, cutesy. So third position, which in second position means for the 8-bit home computer versions of Xenophobe, I gave it to the Amstrad CPC. Very colourful, very bright, okay? But that obviously means the winner is the Commodore 64. Now, the sound was better on the C64. Again, the SID chip coming to its own. And not just that, it wasn't just a sound chip. It wasn't as bright as the Amstrad version graphically, but I thought it was more playable. It was smoother and an overall slightly better gaming experience on the Commodore 64 than the other versions this week. So Commodore 64, a worthy win this week. Which means we now look at the 16-bit versions, of which there were two. In second position, I gave it to the Atari ST. Now, obviously, I mentioned during the overview of these why I think it was the graphically, like the banner, just showed the difference in graphics, and the sound obviously was better on the Amiga. So, an Amiga win for Xenophobe this week. So, well done, Amiga. You took it this week. All right, folks. Now, as always, thanks for watching. You're brilliant. Awesome, guys. And if you haven't already do so, hit that subscribe button, because it helps me greatly and makes me a happy man. Equally, comments, most important thing of all, your guys' knowledge of these games is second to none. The stuff you tell me about these games, your experiences, stories, your memories, and facts that you guys have about these is brilliant. So do drop them in the comments along with a like for me. All right? I've been OGDuffy, the original gamer. You guys have been you. And as per usual, I'm out. If you watched the video and you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe for more great videos. Thanks for watching.